For anyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s, Mr. Freeze is unforgettable. The suit, the voice, the tragedy. But even Batman, the animated series, left out the darkest part of his story. What really happened before that night? Because the laboratory accident didn't create Mr. Freeze. It only completed what the world had begun years earlier. The story begins not with a lab. It begins in a psychiatrist's office. Victor Freeze, still a child, has been brought in by his parents. The problem: every time someone opens the family freezer, there are more of them. Small creatures suspended in ice. The doctor's diagnosis is careful and precise. Victor feels helpless under the weight of his parents' expectations. Freezing those creatures gives him control. A world he can manage. A world that stays the way he wants it to stay. The doctor calls it unconventional, not dangerous, not sick. His father heard this and decided the solution was stricter discipline. That single decision is the engine of everything that follows. Not a lab accident, not a chemical explosion. A father who sat in a psychiatrist's office received a clinical explanation for his son's behavior and walked out having understood nothing. Victor is sent to Greyhaven, a boarding school where the headmaster describes the curriculum as character building, and the hallways operate on a different principle. Boys call him a freak. He mops floors while they watch. When the holidays come, every student's family arrives to take them home. No one comes for Victor. He writes about that winter himself in the comic, in first person. I learned the most painful lesson of all, that I had become an embarrassment to my parents, a mistake to be filed away and forgotten. But here is what nobody tells you about that moment. Before Greyhaven, before the boarding school, before all of it, there was Nicky, a small animal Victor kept in his room, his only companion in a house where both parents competed in their indifference. One night, his father found Victor at the kitchen freezer, placing Nicky inside. Same instinct, same logic that began when he was even younger. Protect what matters before the world takes it. His father did not ask why. Victor's narration does not describe what happened next. It does not need to. The next page takes place at Greyhaven. The pattern that would define Victor Freeze's entire life was already complete before he turned 15. He could not stop loss, but he could stop time, and he would spend the rest of his life looking for something worth protecting forever. He found her at university. Nora was the school's most promising athlete. Victor was a bookish introvert in round glasses who had never stood on ice skates. In his own words, "We could not have been more different." She pulled him onto a frozen lake. He fell. She kissed him anyway. A year later, they were married. He earned his doctorate. They settled near a small state college where he taught science. For the first time in his life, Victor Freeze had something that could not be frozen because it was already warm. Then Nora got sick, and here is the detail the animated series glossed over. The cancer was treatable. Her doctor confirmed it. Treatable, with time and with money. More money than a science teacher's salary could produce. Victor left his teaching position. He needed a research job with a major corporation. He needed the resources to save her. He tried Wayne Tech. No. Star Labs. No. LexCorp. No. 3 buildings, 3 closed doors, 1 panel in the comic that covers all of them. The narration reads, "No company could pay the money I'd need for Nora's treatment. No company except GothCorp." Victor's own description of the place he was about to walk into. A soulless, life-crushing entity, run under the greedy smirk of its president, Ferris Boyle. He knew exactly what it was. He walked through the door anyway. On day 1, Boyle called him Vic, gave a speech about teamwork and family, and said, "Good boy," when Victor nodded along. Victor's narration calls what followed my distinguished career as one of the nameless drones grinding out miracles for the glory of Ferris Boyle. And yet, it was worth it because it was all for Nora. At GothCorp, Victor built the CC-2000 chamber, a full-scale cryogenic healing unit. He presented it to the board. His pitch: cryogenic healing is not a theory. It is a reality. A working model already exists. After final tests, GothCorp could mass-produce the units the following year. A board member noted the project was $2 million over budget. Boyle silenced him with 6 words: GothCorp will hold the patent on immortality. Then Victor received an urgent call. The doctor had done everything possible. There was not much hope left. That night, Victor made a decision that cannot be undone once it is made. He hired a van, loaded the cryogenic capsule, drove to the GothCorp lab after hours, through a corridor marked Biohazard, authorized personnel only. He had never tested the chamber on a human subject. He knew this. With Nora's life fading, there was no other choice. He told her it wouldn't hurt. She told him he was a terrible liar. He promised that when she woke up, life would be just as warm as before. She asked if he would stay while she slept. He said he would never leave her side. He kept a lonely vigil for 1 month. But there was one problem. Boyle had already ordered the cryogenics project shut down weeks earlier. When a subordinate told him Fries was still in the lab, Boyle arrived with security. Victor blocked the entrance to the equipment. Boyle told him funding had been cut, that the project had put GothCorp $3 million in debt. Victor said his wife was inside, that she had to stay until a cure existed. Boyle looked at the chamber, then at Victor. Then he said, "From the looks of things, she's dead already. Guards, pull the plug." And then, as the guards moved in, Boyle's voice softened. "Victor, I'm sorry. I lost my temper. We can talk." He was smiling. The moment Victor turned toward him, Boyle said, "Now, take him down." The guards attacked. The coolant lines ruptured. The explosion consumed the lab. Victor screamed Nora's name. Boyle walked out with his security. No body. He assumed it was over. It was not over. But what Boyle did next tells you more about the system than any speech could. Nora's capsule had survived intact. Boyle had it placed in GothCorp cold storage. The narration does not editorialize. It does not need to. Victor writes it himself. Boyle stored her body, hoping to somehow turn a profit from my tragedy. A year later, GothCorp executives began dying, frozen solid, systematically, wherever they felt safest. The police mobilized. So did someone who had stopped recognizing their jurisdiction. Boyle came face to face with what the decision in that lab had built. He demanded the figure show itself. The cryosuit stepped forward. Victor narrates above the panel. "Fries, strange I never appreciated the irony of my name. In my previous life I might have smiled." Then, out loud, directly to Boyle, "Victor Fries died with his wife. I am a ghost of cold rage and vengeance. Call me Mr. Freeze. Call me Death." Boyle offered Nora's capsule back, in exchange for his life. Freeze answered without hesitation. "She's mine already, Boyle, as is your worthless life." This is the origin. Not a lab accident. Not bad luck. A father who ignored a diagnosis. A system that turned away a man trying to save his wife at Wayne Tech, at Star Labs, at LexCorp. A corporation that let him build the technology, then pulled the plug on the woman inside it to protect the quarterly balance sheet, and a man who received an award afterward. The animated series compressed this into 22 minutes, and it still won the Daytime Emmy. It was voted the best episode of the entire run. DC Comics absorbed the full origin into mainstream continuity. 30 years of Mr. Freeze history replaced. Not because it was more entertaining, because it was more honest. Victor Fries lost his body temperature, his name, his freedom, and every version of the life he had built. Ferris Boyle kept his office, his awards, and the cryogenic capsule he was planning to monetize. Which brings us back to the question, who exactly was the criminal? The comic does not answer this directly. It does not need to. It simply shows you the humanitarian award on the wall and lets you draw your own conclusion. He was right that a crime had been committed. He was right that no investigation was coming. He was right that the system that destroyed him would call itself the victim. The only thing Victor Freeze was wrong about was believing that cold rage could replace what Ferris Boyle took. It couldn't, but we understood the rage because we had read the pages, and the pages do not lie. If this video made you see Mr. Freeze differently, share it with someone who grew up watching Batman, the animated series. And if you want to know the dark origin of another classic character that pop culture decided was simpler than it actually was, subscribe to the channel. Because the next video is about a character who seemed like the villain, but was the only one telling the truth. See you then.